everyone. I'm Kevin Cruz. Welcome back to another episode of The Culture Code. Our guest today, I'm very excited for this one, Chief People Officer at Symphony, Courtney Panik. Courtney, welcome, and where are you joining from today?
Thank you for having me, Kevin. I've been so looking forward to this conversation since you've reached out. I'm joining from my apartment in New York City.
New York City. I have a daughter that lives in New York City, works in Brooklyn. I don't get in as often enough. Now you're making me feel guilty as a dad that I haven't visited her in a while.
Come on, you could come visit her, you can come visit me, swing by Symphony anytime.
I love it. I love it. So tell us, you're in Manhattan. I bet most listeners are not going to be familiar yet with who Symphony is, what Symphony does. So tell us about the company. How big is it? What do you guys do?
Sure. So Symphony is a communications platform for financial services. And the platform that we offer to our clients is secure and compliance enabling. So some of the features and product solutions that we offer are things like chat, file sharing, video calls, markets, voice and video, data analytics, business intelligence. And one of the things that makes Symphony unique is that our product was created by the industry for the industry. So all of our investors are from all of the top banking institutions around the world, and they chose to come together to create this common platform to use and to do business together.
Wow, that kind of guarantees the old product market fit when the investors, the founders are actually like, this is what we want. So they just built it themselves, it sounds like.
They built what they needed, and
Yeah.
the Symphony product was the result of it. As a company, we're about 500 employees located in 10 cities around the globe, and growing every year.
That's great. We're here to talk about culture, of course, and a lot of people, culture is kind of a squishy thing. Like, what does culture really mean? And of course, every company sort of has a unique culture, which once you're inside, you kind of get it or feel it or sort of know the vibe. But from the outside, it would be hard to know what it is. So try to describe, what is Symphony's culture like? Try to describe it to me.
Yeah, even as a chief people officer, I do find this question hard and squishy to describe. The way I describe culture and the way I think of it is culture is not what you do, but how you do it. It's how things get done. It's never static. It's constantly evolving as the company evolves, as the environment evolves, as the company changes and matures, your culture changes and matures with it. And Symphony's culture is really driven by who we want to be for our customers. We really strive to be a trusted solution for our customers. And in order to do that, we have to reflect that level of trust that we want our customers to have in us with each other internally. Mm-hmm. So when I think about our culture and reflecting that trust and building a culture of trust, it's things like transparency, accessibility, being inclusive, holding each other accountable. But the question that you've asked is so timely because we actually just finished our employee engagement survey, our annual survey, and we just recently got the results a couple of weeks ago. And we have a question on that survey about culture. So I think actually the most accurate description of Symphony's culture would come directly from our employees and what they said in the survey. And our employees overwhelmingly use words to describe our culture as inclusive and open, where they feel their opinions are listened to and people feel heard. They used supportive. There was a lot of comments around helping each other, great teammates. I feel supported by my colleagues and my managers. There's a sense of community within Symphony. And then passion really shined through as well. So we're passionate about our product and the expertise that we bring and the impact that we have in the broader community and with our customers. And reading that after and reading through the results, and yes, I read through all of the comments and I've combed through the results many, many times. What is really encouraging when I read that feedback from our employees and sort of how I'm tracking informally if we're moving in the right direction for culture is a lot of those words are actually our company values.
Yeah.
So that is a really nice check and balance, or it's like community, passion, expertise, trust. Those are our values. So it's great to see that our employees see that in our culture.
Did your engagement report put in a nice, pretty word cloud?
Yes. You
I
can't have
love
an
those
engagement
things.
survey without a word cloud.
I love those word clouds. The early ones would always have like the word "the," as the biggest word because everybody was writing long comments or something. Usually they clean that up. But Courtney, that is, first of all, congratulations. That's cool. And just for our listeners, because this is new, I've done a lot of these interviews. This is kind of the first time. I think this is a great check and balance system, right? So a lot of people do employee engagement surveys or quarterly pulse surveys. They don't always ask a culture question. They don't often ask an open-ended question that can be word clouded, like, what 3 words describe our culture? I don't know if that was the question, but there's similar questions like that, right? And so by adding that question type to your survey or sending, God forbid, a 1-question survey and just asking everyone, it lets you check, okay, are we living and breathing what we claim we want to be? And I love that you talked about it. It's like it was aspiration, was like identity. Our culture is who we want to be for our clients. And asking this question kind of gives us a check, which is brilliant. And these traits, around transparency, accessibility, the support. I always say, like, culture doesn't happen by accident, right? You don't just hire 500 people and they randomly all happen to be that kind of people. So what are you doing to foster this culture in an intentional way?
Sure. So Symphony is a relatively young company. We're just starting in our 10th year. And we have, over the past, let's say 3 years, have made an intentional effort to shift from startup mode to scale up mode, which is exactly where we need to be kind of in our business maturity model. So we are still in that scale build mode. And so a lot of the work that we're doing is just now, it started off a little bit block and tackling and now is becoming more and more sophisticated and creating higher impact and has been evolving. And that goes along with culture. So it is definitely something that's going to be ongoing. We do think about our culture and the evolution of it. We spent a lot of time up front building the foundational blocks to allow us to scale and build upward. And we really needed this transition from a business perspective. So if I think about the majority of our cultural drivers, it's really a combination of informal things that have come through the employees or through specific leaders or different locations around the world, as well as probably an equal number of formalized programs that are deliberately put in place. Some of the things that we did at first in the past 3 years, when we started this journey to shift to a more scalable business framework, is we looked at how we were structured, we looked at how we communicate to each other, and we looked at what was needed. We need to move fast, we need to be flexible, we need to be and want to be transparent with our employees. And to foster that trust that's so important to us. And so we looked at things like organizational structure, made sure that it was flat, that allowed communication to flow, that allowed us to be nimble and to be able to react if we needed. We also we have an open door policy. So everyone from an intern to the most senior person has access to each other, including our CEO, Brad Levy. And we trust that people use their judgment and discretion in that level of accessibility to everyone through the company. We also, as I said earlier, transparency is really key. And that's a big block in building trust. So sharing information at the firm-wide level with our employees at quarterly all hands and in team meetings is something that we really believe in. So we trust our employees with our financial information and our competitive data and our strategy. And we do this so they can be informed on how they can do their best work. And of course, with that level of transparency, there is, that is, I would say, higher than most. We're doing it in a very responsible way. And I think our employees appreciate that. They appreciate us trusting them with that information. If I think about some of the things around it a little bit more around community, which is one of our values, building community is an internal priority, but it's also really important because we foster community externally. Our product is a collaboration solution for a lot of companies, and that in itself forms a community in financial markets. So internally, we've spent a lot of time on building an inclusive environment, and we've started in the past few years employee resource groups, and those are established by employees and run by employees. We try to celebrate various diversity initiatives and efforts and to be more inclusive in our offices. So things like International Women's Day, Black History Month, Diwali, which is right around the corner. We're looking forward to that celebration. And we also partner with community organizations that are creating opportunities for underrepresented groups. So we have some DEIB partnerships with external organizations such as Streetwise, which is based out of New York City, Urban Synergy in London, Women in Banking and Finance, Coding Black Females. And we set up events with them to provide mentorship and career advancement exposure to professional settings. And it has really become a mutually rewarding relationship and a big piece of culture within Symphony, because not only do the participants of these organizations get access and coaching and this experience, but our employees also get the opportunity to volunteer, to share their knowledge, to be a part of the community. And the fact that we get to make this easier and accessible for our employees to do that, I think really does, it has become a key part of our culture. Those are some of the more formalized things. If I think about the things that have happened informally, which are equally as powerful and maybe even more powerful in some instances, everything from weekly office lunches to Thursday night drop-in happy hours. And this really does depend on the office. So every office does its own thing that makes sense for the people in that office, and what resonates with them and what brings them together. We have team events. We have a fierce pickleball team in New York City. Look out. They're going for the gold. There was a hiking trip today, which I was unable to attend, and I just saw some pictures, and I don't even know if I'd be able to do the hike that they did. So again, I'm incredibly impressed by our employee base and their athletic prowess. And we do simple things like, this is going to sound so basic and it costs almost nothing. And this was started by the employees, but employees brought in puzzles and they set them up in the office, and they started to do puzzles in between meetings or while they were eating lunch. And it is incredibly powerful. I just happened to have one of the puzzle tables outside my office, not because I put it there. That's just where the puzzle landed. So I can sort of see the evolution of the puzzles and the teamwork and problem solving to complete a puzzle. If you just think about the point of a puzzle. So the metaphor there is spot on. And it's also creating some mental capacity for our employees. They step away from their computers. They've been staring at Excel spreadsheets all day. It gives them some rest. And I've seen some of the more reserved employees who really didn't interact with anyone sit down at the puzzle table, start to talk to somebody else, and then now they're bringing in the puzzles, and now these employees are the starters on the pickleball team and planning the happy hours, and it was a different way in. And it sounds so basic, but it's so powerful.
Courtney, I'm glad you said puzzles, because I'm thinking pickleball. I'm thinking about myself, pickleball and hikes, and it's like, oh, this sounds exhausting and sweaty. And then you got to puzzles. I'm like, okay, I could be part of this culture, right? There's something for everyone here.
The puzzles are my jam as well. Yes.
You actually reminded me, I haven't thought about this in a long time. So over 30 years ago, most people don't know, I don't think it's like on my official resume, but I worked at AT&T Bell Laboratories when I was really young. And I remembered being, I think I was still a teenager when I started there. They had in their giant cafeteria all these game tables, and it was chess, and it was checkers, and it was puzzles. Now, this is AT&T Bell Labs. I think these are some of the most brilliant scientists and mathematicians and inventors around. and they were all hanging around playing games with each other. And it's like, I mean, I actually love the idea of the pickleball, but just something that could give people that break and another way to socialize and, build ties, the social ties is just incredible. Let me shift gears though, because I love all that. And I know that about 70% of the variance in employee engagement goes back to who your manager is.
Mhm.
People don't really leave companies, they usually leave a boss. So the frontline managers are especially critical because they're the lens for 80% of your team. And I also know, so you're roughly 500 employees. You probably have, I don't know, I'm guessing 70 or 80 frontline managers, and you don't have a lot of money to put them through big, long official leadership development programs and expensive assessment centers and all these things that giant Fortune 500 companies do. So, what are you doing to train and develop your frontline managers?
Yeah, I completely agree, Kevin. Being a people manager is an incredibly important role. To me, people managers are culture carriers, they're cultural enablers, and they are driving the majority of the work being done at the company and interacting with more employees at scale and more frequently than leaders. So they really do set the tone. And so the role of a people manager is critical to the success of the business. So some of the things that we're doing, we do have a couple of programs in place. So we have an early, like an aspiring people manager or new to people management career or program that is about 4 months. And it's a couple of hours every week that employees can opt into. And that happens every year. We do 1 or 2 cycles of those a year. We bring in an external vendor, and then we supplement with some of our internal content. We've also just started, we made an investment in our systems as part of that, building the foundation. So now that we have systems in place, we can push out content at scale. We've started to curate content specific to people managers. So hiring effectively, understanding and having compensation conversations. How do you assess performance? How do you differentiate a performance? How do you manage performance? Difficult conversations. So more than just block and tackling, approving time cards or distributing and delegating work. This is the stuff of developing teams and creating high impact teams. So we started to create these on-demand resources, written as well as mini videos, 5 to 10 minutes, that we are organizing and pushing out through our HRIS system. And then we just kicked off, well, we are going to kick off next week, a monthly manager forum, which is a 1-hour session in which, as we launch the content, the on-demand content, the following week or 2 later will be the manager forum. That will be a live session where we take that content and we apply it. So there's a Q&A, there's breakout sessions, maybe there's a little role play. Can't have an HR session with a little role play. But we really want to make it digestible and relevant to our managers, because it's one thing to read it, it's a completely different game to actually do it. And I think that's the piece that sticks. So we are coming into end of year right now, our end of year process. We're doing performance assessments and thinking about talent reviews and promotions and compensation. So the first 2 sessions and the first 2 blocks of content are around performance assessment, how to write an assessment, how to differentiate talent. And then we're going into compensation, which is really tough for some people to talk about, to want to understand compensation and kind of demystify how it works and why it is the way it is. And then to have those conversations and really own that. And we're going to keep doing that throughout the year.
Wow, so much good stuff there. And Courtney, I have an ear for language. I write books and everything, so I like it. And you use this phrase, culture carriers for the frontline leaders, and that'll never become their official name. But I really love that phrase and that concept. And I'm going to steal it from you. If you see some LinkedIn posts or rants about frontline leaders as culture carriers, I was thinking of you and I wrote it. But also, and great minds think alike. I'm glad you talked about what you're doing and the fact that you're able to do that as a small organization, because my company LeadX, and I never talk about LeadX on this show, so I'll keep it brief. That's our whole thing is like, look, the old school way of like send everyone to a boot camp, they don't remember it, they don't apply it. The knowing doing gap is fatal. So whether you do it yourself, whether you work with a lead X or something like that, the idea of like, wait a minute, every month can be a separate topic, whether it's your competency, whether it's timely connected to what you're trying to deliver. This idea of a flipped classroom, learning in the flow of work. No, it's not this giant course. It's 5-minute videos, right? That's accessible, digital. We can do in the palm of our hand or through Teams or Slack. And then you're using that time, the live time, not as death by PowerPoint, not as sage on the stage, not as a boring webinar. We call them group coaching sessions. It's like, okay, sure, maybe there's 5 minutes of reviewing the feedback model that you want to use or our performance plan or whatever it is. But then it's like conversations and breakouts, and people love it. Managers want to talk to peers. It's like, okay, I get it, but I'm still having problem in this scenario. What do you want to do? And there's the knowledge transfer part that's valuable. And then it's that social glue that makes it even more powerful. And we have got clients, they call these like the leadership power hour and all that. And they're wildly popular if you do them right, And you've just showed like, hey, we can pull it. You don't need to be a Fortune 500 company to deliver this the right way.
Yep. Yeah. And there is a secret weapon that we have that every company has.
I love secrets.
We're definitely going to leverage and it is expected. If you're a manager of managers, so if you are a manager of people managers, and a lot of our leaders who have big organizations, our executive team, our leadership team, they're all great leaders and people managers. They did not get to the level that they are by not being. And so I think it's really powerful, and we are definitely going to engage them to co-facilitate with other leaders and managers the topics, because HR could talk with people or talk at people, or, we're still HR in the end. But if you see your leader, if you see another manager, your peer, and they're sharing advice, I think that just amplifies it, and it creates a more sticky environment to learn. So that is something that, as a small company, my team, we don't have one resource dedicated to learning and development. It's kind of spread between me and another person and pretty much all of HR in some aspect. But if we're able to partner with really successful people managers and leaders on these topics, and they could help carry some of the load and share their experience and advice, that I think that it goes even further than just the HR team doing it.
Okay, Courtney, and we're going off script because this is so darn good. You just dropped gold, so I need to make sure everyone's really understanding. So LeadX research shows exactly what you said. The number one, everyone says, oh, people aren't participating, they don't show up. All our employees say they want to learn and grow, but then they say they're too busy for our programs. The number one variable is if the participant's manager cares, right? So if my manager wants me to work 50 hours this week or more to get hit the deadline and get the client satisfied, I'm not showing up for the learning program. If my manager says, Kevin, how's that session going? What did you think of that class? Tell me in our O3 or in your one-on-one what you learned. If the manager cares, then the people will participate. You're saying, how they know their manager cares? Their managers are leading the class. Their managers are facilitating all of this. So great nugget there. One of the many stealable ideas that you're already dropping. So let's go back. You did mention, I love this idea of the culture word cloud, an annual engagement survey. You using anything else to gather data about how people are feeling about your culture?
We do an annual right now. We are looking at doing some pulses now that we have our system set up. So it is on our tech roadmap and our engagement roadmap to do more frequent, shorter pulses on specific topics. We also have a regular cadence, and we really leave it up to the business and the managers to do their regular team meetings, check-ins, and our HR team is involved in that. We have HR business partner teams, so they're gathering feedback from that. We'll also do, if we find that there is either an upcoming topic, something's kind of hot in the market, or maybe something that is becoming a challenge for our employees, or results from the engagement survey that are a development area. We have done focus groups from time to time. We don't like to over flex that because it is time required, and we want people to feel safe, and we want to do it on things that we know we can move the needle, but we will hold focus groups and to get a little bit deeper into the employee sentiment on things. And we're also a pretty small company, we're about 500 employees. Everyone pretty much knows everyone. And so the accessibility to have informal touch bases, but bump into somebody in the hallway, it's nothing to do skip levels or even catch up on the pickleball court, and kind of take a pulse. So we try to use more formalized as well as informal ways of collecting feedback.
Great. You've already shared so many cool projects, initiatives that you're doing, formal and informal. Have you covered it all, or is there anything in particular that you're most proud of or that you'd want to share?
Oh my goodness, I feel like we're doing so much. I think that I'm very excited for this rollout of the manager content. We have a fantastic group of managers at Symphony. I think that even if you're a well-seasoned people manager and you think you got it nailed, I think the value in coming into a session, whether it's a monthly session or you're facilitating, is you may learn something, and I still learn stuff as I'm reading through the content, or it's a really good reminder. It's also that you'll understand where you could help others, you could help your peers. So I'm really excited about that. And then the other thing that I'm really excited about, and I talked about it, so I won't spend too much time on, is even though we are small and quite lean, our executive team, our company, our HR team is really focused on creating an inclusive environment for our employees. And it was really great to see that we seem to be doing a pretty good job on it. It was one of our highest scores on our engagement survey. And so being able to create a space where employees feel like they can own and drive their own initiatives related to culture, that they're heard and they have accessibility to their managers or others, as well as investments in relationships and partnerships with these external organizations for volunteer opportunities. I'm really proud of the work we've done there. We weren't doing much prior, or we were doing some things, but it wasn't in a connected way that was really moving things forward. And I think we have a much more focused approach to driving diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And there's so much more to do. We haven't even scratched the surface, but I'm really proud of everybody at Symphony for their commitment and support and being a part of that journey.
Now it's a short format podcast, and my editors at Forbes only give me about 1,000 words, so it's even worse in the written version. So we're almost out of time, but I want to hit you with some questions that are a little more fast and fun. Starting with, if you could wave a magic wand and all your colleagues got a book or a podcast or a Netflix show, I don't know, you could send them something that they could watch, listen to, read, and everyone would do it and kind of take it to heart and be transformed by it. What would you send everyone?
Oh my goodness. Well, you just hit on one of my personal development goals, because I definitely need to read more and spend more time on myself and stop giving to others so much. I've got two. I'm going to break the rules. I'm going to give you two. I think anything that Brene Brown writes, hosts, and podcasts is so thoughtful. And I find that her work, I haven't read all of it, but Daring Greatly is one of my favorites. That stands out. I find that it is helpful for me as a person to think about my relationships with people and how I may filter myself or structure my day, and how I may be limiting myself, but also as an HR professional, as a leader, as a citizen in the community. So you don't need to be in HR to really learn something from this. I think that it's very helpful to think about what others may be going through, or what other challenges other people will be facing, and the way she kind of structures her content. It's quite digestible and realistic, and relatable. And the other book that I quite enjoy, and my husband had recommended this to me a long time ago, is The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. And this shows you a little bit of my own personal development that I need to work on. We all have a million things coming into our lives: workload, media, family, all these obligations. And that book for me helped me to think about how do you set yourself up in a routine that allows you to make the highest impact, and how do you tap into the best version of yourself by changing how you structure your day and how you think about your day. And I know there's a lot of books about the power of habit and of the same vein, but that one in particular just really resonated with me.
Yeah, I'm all about the like structuring the day, the habits. That's my jam. And then plus one on Brene Brown, especially Daring Greatly. Like I have found anecdotally that like I think Brene Brown's readers tend to skew very female, but that's one of the top 10 books on my list that changed me. I mean, I think I was 40 years old. A former worker, someone on my team recommended it, Daring Greatly. And I can't remember the page number. I was like, I remember I was reading it and then something just hit, and it was like there was a before and after moment around like self-worth and value and external validation. I'm like, oh, that's why I am the way I am. It's like a before and after happened on that book. And so, yeah, I think those are great recommendations. What's something that you know now that maybe you wish you knew on the first day? If you could send a Slack or a Teams message to the younger version of Courtney, what would you tell her?
I think when I came into this role, and I've been in my CPO role for just over a year and a half, so still fairly new to the role. And one of the things that I think I know in the back of my head, but I didn't leverage it enough, is that I am supported and I don't have to carry the responsibility, the workload on my shoulders. So one of the things that my manager recently told me was learn how to distribute the risk. If somebody comes to you with something, you don't have to solve it alone. Tell me, tell legal, talk about it with the leadership team, as long as that's appropriate, because sometimes right. HR, we can't do that all right. the time. But bring other people in and let's solve it together. And I think that I thought throughout my career that was something like I had to at least have a recommendation or come with some sort of solution, and I would toil over things unnecessarily when I could have just brought support in a lot earlier and come to a conclusion a lot faster.
Distribute the risk. I like that phrase a lot. So we're talking here, it's the very end of October 2023. So the new year is almost here. By the time the holidays, it's like we're practically there. What do you plan to focus on in the year ahead?
Yeah, I'm having an HR offsite next week, and we were just talking about this of how do we set up for next year, and we're reflecting on the last offsite. And we've spent so much time the past 2 years on really block and tackle building the foundation so we can build on top of it. And we've now turned that corner. Not that we've never not taken our eyes off of diversity or learning and development. We just haven't had the capacity to go full on because we had to get some of the foundation in place or fix it or fill some gaps. So now we do. And so I'm very excited to put more time and effort into our DEIB program, our manager capabilities, which I just talked about us launching, and really spending more time there to help them grow in their career and make sure they're successful. And then general career development for our employees. We may not have the ability to do a lot of formalized programs, but because we are a small company, we have a lot of opportunity to move around in the mobility, and we stretch projects and to do rotations into different teams. So I'm really excited to start to plan out and launch some things around career mobility.
And what about organization wide? Like, as you think about the year ahead, what are you most excited about for Symphony?
Oh, it's always an exciting time at Symphony. What I think is the most exciting about Symphony right now is that we are more relevant than ever in the market. And we know it, and our customers they know it, or they're seeing it. And maybe there's some new customers out there as well that will realize it. But regulation and compliance and security are at the forefront. There are millions of dollars in fines that are occurring at some of the largest financial institutions right now. And these fines are resulting in terminations of employees who they have not used compliant messaging or compliant means of communication in their day-to-day work, which brings risk onto their employers. So the SEC and the CFTC are really digging in here. And there's no other collaboration platform in the market that's secure and compliance enabling. So Symphony is the solution there. And we've known it for quite some time. And now we're really coming to that point where the market is also realizing it as well. So we can be a great partner and solution to those who are facing some of these challenges around compliance and regulation.
You've got me excited about the opportunity. So I hope you call me the next time you guys are looking for additional outside investors. I want to get in on a round.
All right. I'll put you on speed dial.
Courtney, big thanks. Incredible programs, initiatives, and structure for a company of your size, small but mighty. Thanks for the work that you're doing. Thanks for spending time sharing some of your wisdom today. And I want you to come back a year from now when you've gone from that startup to scale up so we can learn about the lessons you learned in the year ahead. I want to have you back.
I'd love to do that. Let's put it in the books.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.